start over. Okay, so this model is called the reserve market model. I want to emphasize with the room that you should use the title of your graphs in order to set up the graph. If it's talking about the reserve market model, you're going to measure the quantity of reserves from left to right. Your up and down label right now is something called policy rate. When you get into the top portion of this graph, there are 3 different types of interest rates. All 3 of them are going to have this borrowing perspective. As you get into the bottom portion of your demand curve, it's an investment perspective. We want dollars to grow over time. This funky line is in fact your demand curve. There's an upper bound called a ceiling. There's like the legit slope, which is normal for demand. Bottom portion is a price floor. It's your lower bound. You can go section 1, section 2, section 3. All of our banks have 2 different ways that they can run life. The first one is a limited reserve system. The second one is an ample reserve system. We ended up putting vertical supply curves. Limited has to be on the slope. Ample has to be on the floor. This is the 3rd vertical line that you've gotten in this room. Your first vertical line was LRAS. Your second vertical line was the money supply curve. This is your 3rd one. And you're going to get this question across all 3 scenarios. Like, why is it that these lines come back to be vertical? What is it about that line that technically makes it different from the slopes that we have? Vertical lines. All 3. Vertical lines don't care about an up and down label. That policy rate is not the thing to determine the supply of reserves. Really, it's just a measurement of quantity. It goes across quantity, it goes across quantity. You're looking for a boss, and the boss in this whole scenario is going to be your central bank. So if we're going to increase or decrease the supply of reserves, it comes back to your central bank. That was the only thing we missed yesterday with time. And after that, the title of your 6th lesson is monetary policy. So we are officially going to start to break down what monetary policy is. If you don't like the back of paper, grab your 2nd piece of paper. If you're willing to write on the back, that's fine. We're going to go in the other direction though. So turn your paper. Same section. Okay, see, you have to have a bit of background knowledge in order to get into monetary policy. We've done some heavy lifting with the reserve market model. You've talked about monetary policy before, but we're going to give it a whole bunch more detail. This 4th unit that you and I are working our way through has been a bit choppy. Like, we're having 2 rallies, moving on spring break, and there's been so many different things taking place. But one of the things that I stated to the room before all of this began was to know your vocab. Vocab was turned in last night. Almost everybody did that, but a lot of times vocab is like a mindless experience. You're not really absorbing it, and some computers do it for you. I really do suggest that you sit with your vocab for this unit. That top portion of your graph has 3 different interest rates, but 3 different labels and 3 different understandings. That's all vocab, okay? I really do suggest you study it. You already know this, so here's your question. Who's in charge? Who makes monetary policy actions? Who declares?
Central bank.
Central banks. Who declares fiscal policy?
Government.
Okay, so everything we continue to do on this paper is a bank initiative. Central banks want to do a thing, very intentionally want to do a thing. Keep track of your colors today. Monetary policy and fiscal policy, they definitely have similarities. Similar language, similar goals when it comes to an ADAS model. If the monetary policy or the fiscal policy, they want stuff to happen in the economy. Positive thoughts. What's your upgraded version of positive thoughts? Okay, so you're working expansionary. This time around, we are monetary policy. You will also get that language with fiscal policy. They'll be like, there's expansionary fiscal policy or the reverse. If policy action is happening, it's on purpose, which means your brain goes back in time and you start to imagine this graph. If you want positive thoughts into your economy, how'd you start? That would mean that question dumped you into a recessionary gap, starting to guide you with some monetary policy, getting you out of the gap. The vocab is super apparent. But if I take the three pages that I end up writing with you for this lesson and put it at its most simplest version, your monetary policy action, I wanted to change an interest rate. Okay, so after all three papers that we do for this unit lesson, interest rates need to do a thing because that interest rate will impact your aggregate demand curve. And you know this. If it's an expansionary thought, what do you want that interest rate to do?
Go.
This time you want it down. Okay, borrowing perspective, you want that interest rate to drop because if you can declare, I was recessionary, and then I did the expansionary monetary policy, the next question you get is what happened? Dear student, what happened to your aggregate demand curve? Where do you go? Low interest rates. As a consumer, a business, a government, trading partners, attracted or unattracted? You're going right. And you can use that language on an FRQ. You can be like, the interest-sensitive components find it attractive. Interest-sensitive components are C, I, G, X minus M. Everything goes in two directions in here, at least. So if you're not recessionary, how do you start?
Inflation.
Now you're starting inflated. Okay, so now you're running an inflationary gap. Your central bank is like, I need you to chill. What's your chill word for monetary policy now?
Contraction.
Now we are contractionary. The notes are long and the vocab is abundant and there's so many different things that take place. But if I turn it into a Cliff Note version, really short story, I want the monetary policy to do something to your interest rate because the interest rate takes you back to aggregate demand. This time around, if you're looking for your economy to chill out and contract, what happens to an interest rate?
Goes up.
Now we're going up. That is a borrowing perspective. Your interest sensitive components are like, no thank you. And because they're not willing to spend money, particularly borrow, College Board throws you into your next graph. And they say, what happens to AD? And you're like, that thing goes left. Yes, ma'am.
So would that be applied to like right now, like how interest rates are like rising for housing? Would that like kind of like make inflation go down because people are now not going to keep buying that much anymore?
Yes.
So is that a good thing and a bad thing sometimes?
So like I can run into two people and have two different conversations about that interest rate. If you have the knowledge of why the interest rate is doing that, someone could look at you and be like, yeah, I get it. And then you could look at someone else and they could also have the knowledge and be like, but I still hate it. So even when I talk about like a natural rate of unemployment in the United States, we're happy at 4 to 6%, right? But if I go up to someone and I'm like, I need you to lose your job so we can get back to 4 to 6%, like one econ perspective is like, yay! And the other econ perspective is like, what? So, yeah. Okay. Blue vibes, whatever your blue is. Okay. Next step. When you work a question, and that question is targeting monetary policy. There's expansionary, there's contractionary, there's all of these tools and all of these different things. But the only way you get to figure out how to really do these questions, you sit there, you talk to yourself, and you say to yourself, what kind of banking system is this? Because if you don't know what kind of banking system you're in, you're not going to know how to answer the question. So now I'm looking for vocab. What are the two different ways that a bank sets up? That's right. Okay, those are the two different ways that a bank system rolls. Your United States Central Bank was in a limited system up until the recession. A lot of people were like, shame on banks, you ruined us. So then stuff adjusted. Now we run an ample system. Most, not all, but most of your questions come from a limited perspective. So we're gonna start there today. Honestly, we won't even touch the ample experience today. It's fine, we survived. Now we get very technical. Okay, so you read that question. That question has to tell you if you're limited or ample in some capacity. It's not something for you to just guess at. Like, it has to be there. When you are a limited system, interest rates are definitely influential in how life's gonna roll. We're absolutely looking to do something to cause that interest rate to change. In a really technical perspective, it's called quantity-based policy. What we're trying to do is control the quantity of money that's out there. You're trying to control the money supply, which is the graph up here. If you're able to control the money supply, taking the curve to the right, taking the curve to the left, which is your vertical line, you will come back and tell me that your interest rate has changed. So you'll be able to see this on a money market model. So as you shift your money supply curve, going to the right, going to the left, changing your quantity, because that's ultimately what your vertical line measures, bless you. You're gonna walk away and tell me that an interest rate has gone up or down. But it gets even more specific. So a limited system has certain tools for monetary policy, and an ample system has certain tools for monetary policy. Really quick brain change. Fiscal policy has 3 separate tools. What are they? What's one? What's one? Sorry, I thought you had your hand up. What's one?
Taxes.
Okay, transfer payments, taxes, government spending. Okay, fiscal policy is transfer payments, taxes, government spending. Tools, limited system, only limited. limited system, monetary policy, picking up tools. You have something called a discount rate. You have something called a required reserve ratio, and an open market operation. And that gets a highlight because College Board is all over open market operations. They ask about it all the time. So super highlight that portion of your paper. Especially if you were here yesterday, you know this. What's a discount rate? It's a really, really specific type of interest rate, but like, who are we borrowing from?
It's to calculate the present value of future cost flow through a project or investment.
Whoa, that was a more in-depth answer. Keep going. Who are we borrowing from? Multiple answers still. Check your papers. Discount rate. Who are you borrowing from? Central bank. Okay. The discount rate means you borrow from the central bank. The federal funds rate means that you borrow from commercial banks. What is an interest rate? Keep your colors consistent. Low discount. All that means is that they're going to start to drop the interest rate when it's time to borrow reserves. The lower the discount goes, the more likely it is that banks are willing to borrow. Quantity would be in that answer. If the economy is inflated, if it's a limited reserve system, one of the things that they can do is increase the discount, which translates to a higher interest rate. We're not attracted to high interest rates when it's time to borrow, so then the quantity would start to drop off. There's this portion of Unit 4 that makes us go like, I hate that question. It's called fractional reserve banking. You drop off money at the bank and they're like, oh, there's $2,000. There's a required reserve ratio of 20%. Tell me what happens. You know what I'm talking about? That's the middle portion. Okay, your required reserve ratio is only applicable in a limited reserve system. So let's see what we remember. If your central bank wants your economy to do more, expansionary monetary policy, put more money out there to drop your interest rates, they're going to drop their required reserve. So tell me, if I put money in the bank and you split and split, you go required reserves and what?
Excess.
They're called excess. Okay, you go required reserves and you go excess. If this becomes a low number, you just increase your excess reserves. Do we agree?
Yes.
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 What do you do with excess reserves? Like, what do they become for other people? You guys are the best. Okay, so loans become available to other people. Money supplies start to adjust and interest rates will change. If they're like, I don't want to give out a bunch of stuff. I don't want to give out loans right now. They need to drop the amount of excess reserves, which means they need to increase the required reserves by increasing that ratio. Ultimately, this is a percentage. A lot of times the question says 10%, but the number is subject to change. Bless you. Then I have this thing called open market operations, and it's just such a popular question. When open market operations hits your question, we go bonds. It is the buying and selling of bonds. It's kind of like a quiet way for the central bank to control the money supply. Positive thoughts when it comes to a bond, super specific language. Buying bonds. The central bank came to your commercial bank and they're gonna buy bonds. They left money at the bank. Sometimes they call bonds securities, like you buy a security. Sometimes it will say that. Here's your next question, and it was a rule that I declared some days ago. Money goes in the bank. Deposit. You split and split. When a bond goes through a purchase, do you split a bond?
No.
Never ever. Okay? You never ever split a bond. When a bond exists, you're like on the balance sheet, right? You have assets and the bond is over here. We did this. When the bond gets purchased, and you leave money in the bank, what does it reclassify as on a bank balance sheet? What do you call that money now? They are an asset, but like very specifically, which line on the balance sheet does it go into? It's not a bond anymore. What do you call it now?
Liquid?
Nope, not yet. You don't split and split. Bond purchase will impact all of something. Reclassify my dollars. Check your notes. Yeah.
One shot in the dark, is it M1 money supply?
Technically, no. It's M0. Nope. Owner's equity is on the other side. Yeah, you have to check your notes. I will stand here. If you do a bond purchase, like the bond sits on your bank balance sheet and then we cross it out and we move those dollars into a different category, what do they classify as now?
Oh, assets? Current assets. Are you?
It's okay.
Keep going.
Can you give us the A?
Yeah, it's about reserves.
Oh.
Excess reserves. Let's do this again. If I put money into the bank,
Deep in there.
as an individual, I deposit money into the bank. Do you split? Yes. When you deposit money into the bank, you split.
Oh, yeah.
You require reserves, split, and split. When a bond gets purchased, it says bond, and then it's like excess required. When the bond gets purchased, those dollars adjust, and you move the dollars into excess reserves. Do you recall?
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay. When that happens, you just dumped all this money into excess reserves, and you just did this with confidence. You told me excess reserves become loans. Loans increase the money supply, and increasing the money supply does what to an interest rate? Decreases. Okay. Leslie? Contractionary. Super specific language. This is the one that hurts our brains. Central banks show up at commercial banks. I'm a central bank. I'm talking to the commercial bank. And I'm doing selling bonds. I'm holding the bond and I'm like, I don't want this anymore and buy it back. Okay? If I don't want this anymore and they have to buy it back, the bond stays at the bank. What goes with the central bank now? Okay, let's do it again. I said buy this back. I left the bond at the bank because they did in fact buy it back. But because they bought it back, what do I leave with? I leave with money. I took their excess reserves. Okay? Selling bonds is a negative thought.
Is it bad for the banks or is it good for whoever bought the bond and getting it back?
If they're doing things right, it's supposed to benefit all parties. Okay? Selling bonds is buying back. It is a money out scenario. You made it. This is our point. You take that paper, which has all the fun stuff on it. You find somebody in this room who keeps you accountable and off your cell phone. We have an academic conversation. This is what I think I currently don't understand. Go.
Oh, no. Just get right. No, get right. All of this. What
Everything else? Slow? Everything
Limited is
So just.
is in section 2. It's number 1, 2, 3. And then ample is in section 3.
Wait, is it like
And then every vertical line is only, it doesn't matter about yeah. The vertical line doesn't care about the IR that's on screen. Wait, Monday, Friday's on
Oh yeah. I'm back. Wait.
You're so sweet.
Yeah. I did that one.
Does anyone want to ask a thing? Know a thing? Are you ready? Round 2. T-chart, whole paper.
It's because I'm holding it
Sorry. Okay, so we don't have unbelievable comfort with the graph just yet, but we're getting there. We're gonna do a little shorthand. Label up and down. Policy rate. It's an interest rate. It's like this happy medium between a federal funds rate and a discount rate. We use the title of graphs to get us to a label left to right. It's called a reserve market model, so we measure quantity of reserves. There's an upper bound, which is a ceiling. There's an actual slope. There's a lower bound, which is your floor. And that whole experience is the demand curve for reserves. We ensure that the ceiling and the floor go across the graph. That's how you get full credit. One of the last things we put onto paper was your supply curve, indicating what kind of graph we're working with, and everything we're doing right now is limited. So where are we? 1, 2, or 3? Whenever it's a limited reserve system, your vertical line will intersect on the second section, which is ultimately the slope. What you just did is a supply curve and a demand curve are crisscrossing and hanging out. So we are establishing equilibrium. Equilibrium for us right now is getting yourself to a policy rate and figuring out where the quantity ultimately began. That that's a 1. Both of these graphs are showing us open market operations. So right now we are buying bonds. You bought the bond. The central bank bought the bond. Dollars stay at the bank. They don't have to split. They all classify as excess reserves. And some things in this room are consistent. It's an increase. You're going to go to the right. But when that happens, you have to stay on the slope. You cannot dump your next line into the floor. Shifts are specific. Labels look like stuff we've done in the past. There's 1s and 2s and arrows drawing conclusions, but you have to stay on the slope to keep it limited. Anybody here or elsewhere who wants to be an AP teacher, we have to go to trainings. Like, they're called summer institutes. We have to go to summer trainings, okay? I've done the econ training twice. The first time I went to the training, I kind of was like, someone take me out of this class, please. The second time I went to the training, I felt a whole lot better. And the teacher made us do this like chain reaction thing. So I'm gonna make you do a chain reaction thing. Yeah.
What do you do in training?
You sit on Zoom and take notes for like 8 hours.
So they like reteach you everything?
Yeah, they teach us stuff and we do like practice problems and breakout rooms and stuff like that.
So you're the student?
Huh? Oh yeah.
Like you're the AP student?
Yeah. Yeah. A very experienced AP econ teacher. Yeah.
Is she like the Mr. Gertz of econ?
Who?
Who teaches you?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm trying to.
There's also a little alphabet soup moment. So PR is policy rate, IR is interest rate, AD, aggregate demand, PL, price level, real GDP, unemployment, bless you, natural rate of unemployment. Okay, I want you, with a somebody, to declare, are we going up, are we going down, or absolutely nowhere, based on what you just did on your graph. Are we going up, are we going down, are we going nowhere? And if you can do this, ooh, kiss your brain moment, brownie points across the room. Try, commence, turn to a somebody, up, down, going nowhere. Get yourself through a chain reaction.
No, it goes down because PR is
So that's going up and going down.
Up, down, nowhere. Those are your options.
Okay.
Okay.
Interest rates will go down. Yeah.
Wait, if it goes down, 80 goes right. So with the interest rate going, interest rate going down, so AD will go to the right, and then AD is going up.
Wait, for which one? Yeah. What did it go up because the lighter shifted the AD line right?
You ready?
So,
That chain reaction has you in 3 separate graphs. The PR is your reserve market model, the IR is a money market model, and your AD and everything else is an ADAS model. The PR is staring you in the face as long as your graph is correct, and our graph is correct. What happened to your policy rate? That number gets smaller, okay? Smaller, more reserves, more excess reserves makes your loans, makes your money supply, so your interest rate goes. We already lost some confidence. Have some confidence. Your interest rate goes down. That's what they wanted. It's expansionary monetary policy. They wanted an interest rate to go down. Where's AD going? Up. Better language is right. Okay. Your aggregate demand curve goes to the right. What happens to your price level because of this shift? Outputs. That means outputs, spendings, and incomes all just went up. What happens to your unemployment rate? And are you?
Nothing.
Ooh. Nothing happens. All you did was get yourself back to full employment. You are establishing your natural rate of unemployment. It's where you're supposed to be. Amazing. What type of inflation do you have? Big brain moments. Box next door. Do we have a little confidence in our graphing?
Yes.
Can you get me to an equilibrium moment in a limited reserve system, please? Can you get me to an equilibrium moment in a limited reserve system?
Hang on, my graph's a little bigger. Do I know who did this group?
Equilibrium. Limited reserve system. Ones are where they're supposed to be. We are selling bonds. It is impacting your reserves. That's what that vertical line is measuring. It's quantity of reserves from left to right. Everything orange on my paper is negative vibes. Contractionary monetary policy. Decreasing, you're going left. But when you cause a shift for that line, you have to stay on the slope. Please don't go into the upper bound. Please don't go into the ceiling. That sounds weird, but that's okay. You remember all the crazy things that you've been told to do in this room so that you get full credit. So there's ones, and there's twos, and there's arrows, and there's dashes where they belong. But we don't just do this for fun. We're trying to cause an impact to the economy. Yes, sir?
Were there supposed to be green dotted lines on the left graph?
I feel like they just don't line up. I just didn't put lines.
Yeah.
You're a better person than I am in this exact moment. Bless you. Yeah, you need lines. Thank you so much. Sorry, they kind of almost went together. Good question. You're going to go across multiple graphs. Reserve market, money market, ADAS model. All of the things need to be declared again. Sorry, we're almost there. please don't just sit there and look at your partner and be like, oh, it's just the opposite of what we just did. Make it make sense. When you're ready, turn to a neighbor. You going up, down, nowhere. Type of inflation, type of unemployment that you know you just added. Thanks for correcting my work.
Pressure goes up. Pressure goes up. Pressure goes up. 80 goes down.
So,
80
as you can see on the graph,
80 down. And price level down.
Our policy rate is just
Like 80.
interest rates are contracted, so
No.
lower AD dictates price.
So it's like this. Then when it goes to the right, this is what we said we did. It goes like this. That means the price will go up. Yeah, so to the left. That means the price will go down. Our GDP will go down. You
Okay.
are.
Cell phones are finding their way out. Let's check your work.
Go down.
You're gonna go across multiple graphs.
It will go up.
One of them is staring you in the face. Your graph is correct. You know for a fact your policy rate just went up. Contractionary. Take the excess reserves away. Take away the opportunity for loans. It decreases the money supply. That's that graph up there. You determine interest rates. Do what? That number gets bigger. So now you're on to an ADAS model. Knowing that your interest rates have gone up, where does aggregate demand go?
Down.
Down, better language. You're gonna go left. When you go to the left, conclusions. What happens to your price level?
Decreases.
Output, spending, income. Number gets smaller. Unemployment rates,
Increase.
natural. Natural. Nothing happens. Okay? Both scenarios, you start in a gap. Both scenarios, you shift your aggregate demand curve to get back to full employment. Nothing happens to natural. What type of inflation do you have here? Ooh. None. Price levels going down. You don't have inflation. What do you technically have? Inflation. What type of unemployment did you just add?